YouTube. And okay, everything is good. Okay, today we're gonna, go back into a bit deeper into something that we talked about last week. So strange, I could hear myself.
Echo. Hello, hello.
Yeah. Is it echo on my side? Strange.
Okay, let me try. Is it
On
better?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay.
Okay, so hi everyone. Thanks for joining us this Sunday afternoon. And this week we're going to talk about something that we have gotten more requests to talk about, which is toxic relationships in general. I think last week we did talk about some more in terms of like emotional abuse. But this week, let's just go deep into what exactly a toxic relationship is. It doesn't always manifest in terms of relationship abuse, but a lot of times it kind of does. So introducing Stefan, of course, if you follow us for a while now, we've done a whole series of these talks, and you can find them on YouTube and on Facebook and also on IG. So we're just going to dive right into it. Okay, so
Yeah.
Stefan, what would you consider to be a healthy or unhealthy relationship? Can you kind of maybe we can contrast the two? What's an unhealthy relationship? Just so we can check off the boxes to ask ourselves whether the relationship that we are in is healthy or not.
To me, I think we can know that a healthy relationship will more likely consist of there's a lot of compassion, a lot of caring for each other, and they can just have an open discussion about almost anything. So they could openly discuss and they are not afraid of sharing their thoughts. And at the same time, there's a lot of respect to hold each other in their own space. They could also, there's feelings of safety and feelings of security. And that's a healthy relationship. However, in the unhealthy relationship, it's the polar opposite. There is a lot of insecurity in terms of sensitivity, and there may be a lot of doubt and anxiety. And sometimes there'll be a high a level of emotions in terms of doubting, like suspecting, and also maybe power abuse or criticism, right? So this is some of the patterns of a unhealthy relationship and a healthy relationship.
I guess have you ever been in a situation like in an unhealthy relationship before?
Yes, yeah, I think that I've been in a few of them. I think maybe sometimes when you're in such a relationship, you take a lot of learnings from it. I think for my biggest experience would be when I'm in an unhealthy relationship, there's a lot of insecurity, there's a lot of doubt, and even some sort of paranoia. Yeah, and maybe there's a lot of second guessing of like what is your partner is doing, or your partner is guessing what you're doing, and there's this constant fear in the head that something wrong is going to happen, or is your partner cheating behind your back, or these are some of the things. What about you, Jade?
Yeah, for me, definitely, I think that I've been in a few as well. Thankfully, not too many. But I think I remember feeling constantly anxious. I always would feel like he's cheating on me or he's lying to me. Like I would ask him, where he's going. He'll tell me he's going home, but I actually didn't really believe he was going home. It's just not very nice, and it's really not healthy or fun. Of course, to constantly be thinking about whether someone is cheating on you or not. There's no like peace and there's no feeling of safety in the relationship. I didn't feel safe. I just always felt like I had to watch him and watch my back, and that's no way to live, guys. So I think if you're having
Yeah,
some of these signs, right, that's really, even if the good times are really good, that's really no way to live your life, I think. So let's definitely talk about that.
yeah,
For a relationship, there are two people in a relationship. So I do always feel that it's two people who ought to take responsibility for the relationship. But in this case, like, we can only control one side, which is ourselves.
yeah.
So let's look at ourselves today and let's talk about some of the signs, like specific signs of an unhealthy relationship that we might be having, or maybe our partner might have. And then we can also talk about how we can, whether the relationship is worth saving
Yeah.
and whether if it's not, then how we can get out. I think that's what we will do today, because no one should be in a relationship where you constantly feel like your partner is cheating on you or is going to leave you.
Yeah, no one needs to suffer. I think that's the main point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are many points, when we're talking about some of the signs of a toxic relationship. But let's just, for the interest of time,
Yeah.
we're picking three to cover that we think are a bit more common and a bit more painful to deal with. So I think the first one is a fear of abandonment, and this one for me is very relatable. But maybe you can tell us more from the psychological perspective, and I can share a bit more of my personal experience as well.
Okay, if I'm going to use me as an example, so so if I am in this, have a fear of abandonment, I will be constantly be feeling insecure. At the same time that I have this fear and worry that my partner will leave me, and it's not just leave me, but eventually they'll leave me one day. And then at the same time that because of that fear, I will also start to look on myself that maybe I'm not good enough in this relationship. I need to work harder or do more. And due to that, I'll constantly look for validation so that, or look at signs that maybe I'm good enough or worthy enough. And apart from this, sometimes during fights or arguments or times of insecurity, I may even say, or I even try to walk away or try to signal to my partner that I'm walking or breaking up in order for the person to close the gap to pacify the situation. Yeah. Of course, at the extreme cases, they may even break up first with other people, may break up first with somebody else before they can even break up with me so that I can remain in control. That's also one of the signs. And another big part of abandonment would be, or having that fear, is that I'll constantly want to test my partner's reaction to see that they care about me. So it could be an argument format, or it could be looking for things to point out at so that I can get a reaction from my partner.
I mean, definitely sounds like not very good fun to be in this situation. I think I definitely have been personally guilty of this. Not the most fun thing to say, but I didn't even realize that may be pointed to a fear of abandonment, which is to maybe be the one to walk away first. Because it's not so coherent. The thought process is not like, oh, I'm so afraid he's going to leave me, so I shall leave first. But I think there's so much fear inside that you just feel so much, and then you're just like, you just want to end it because you just think that might be the less painful thing. Right? So I
Yeah.
think for me, it took a partner who was very patient to be able to kind of see through that and call me out on it and say, like, are you just pushing me away, or are you just running away? And then that's when I had to take a step back, and I was like, yeah, actually, perhaps, I am. I didn't even realize it. And then after that, then is to do the work and to realize, like, okay, why am I doing this? So now I understand, like, it's probably from like a fear of abandonment.
Yeah. When it happened, do you take a long while to realize it?
I think I had that pattern in quite a few of my relationships, to be really honest. But especially when I was younger, and maybe with partners who weren't as patient or weren't as aware. I think then I didn't really realize it, because I mean they would just get angry and then they would just blow out into a big fight or something like that, right? So I think that didn't help. Or being with partners who had really bad tempers also didn't help. What really helps was, like I said, I had a partner who was very patient and who pointed it out in a very calm and like a very loving way that is a lot easier to accept and to understand. And then for me, after that, then I felt bad about it, and I thought about it, and I realized, like, yeah, maybe it's just because I'm afraid that he will leave me first.
When you talk about this, Jade, it also remind me of how I used to be afraid of this too.
Yeah.
And I will always keep like 1 arm's length or 2 arm's length with my partner to make sure that I have enough space. Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
wouldn't you wouldn't let them get too close, you mean?
Yeah. Or not let them get too close. I think this is one of my patterns that I used to have
Mm,
because I'm afraid that I will commit, and then in the end it will fail.
yeah.
Yeah. So when we talk about this topic, it's such a great time to talk about this, and to recognize our own patterns of a relationship.
Yeah, definitely. I think that this fear of abandonment is something that might be a little bit more common than we realize. And if you're listening at home, I think it's a good time, like Stefan said, just to think about your own patterns of relationship. Everyone's really different. Like for me, I do let people get close, but then yeah, there's a point when, like, if things start to get a bit wonky or we have a fight, then I will just like run.
Mm,
and then I realize now it's because I'd rather be the one to run first, or at least that's how I used to think.
yeah. I know in sometimes when people run away or like this, they will run one big round to come back. Are you still looking at me? Are you still watching me when I run away?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's really unhealthy, when especially like I always thought it was like a younger relationship thing, like maybe like when you're like 15, 16, and then you play these games. But actually I see my friends who are like adults, and they're
Mm,
still in this horrible cycle with their partners where it's like I break up and then wait for the person to come back and, and run after them, and it's really it's not a healthy cycle, guys. It's really not. So I think that, like I said, for the purpose of this video, let's just check in to see whether if your partner is exhibiting this, then you can ask yourself whether this relationship is worth keeping. But you can also, I think, it's good to look at ourselves and ask ourselves whether we are the ones who are, exhibiting these signs, and whether we need to work on ourselves. Because
yeah.
honestly, there's no way to have a really good and fulfilling relationship if you don't do the work on yourself first, right? Because then you're just bringing a lot of bad things to your relationship, and there's no way it's going to be good in that way.
Yeah.
So okay,
Taking ownership is very important.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one, right?
Mm,
And then we're gonna talk about two more. I think the other point about a toxic relationship that both of us found to be quite important is that is an unstable relationship pattern.
yeah.
Yeah.
Having a example of an unstable relationship pattern is that, if let's say I'm an example again, that I will always feel like I'm in the drama series, right? Literal drama series. There's a lot of highs, there's a lot of lows. It could be 1 minute heaven and 1 minute bit in hell. And there would be a lot of emotional spite, like jealousy or emotional threats, or sometimes my
Mm.
partner, if let's say that we try to elicit jealousy from each other, do things to make each other jealous so that we can
Oh.
elicit care and affection. And there's another pattern would be if you find yourself or we find ourselves in a relationship that we need to creep around our partner, having the worry that whatever we say, then our partner will be angry or be triggered or they'll be jealous. And that is also a big sign of an unstable relationship pattern.
Mm.
I think we said this in the last episode, there's a lot of self-censorship going on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also another great indicator is that when you find yourself in a relationship where your partner is trying to control you in different ways, like through manipulation or try to influence your decision, and that is also a very unhealthy pattern, that we can realize.
I mean, because when you're in like a relationship, especially a romantic relationship, that is when a healthy one, as you said at the start, Stefan, is where you feel like you can be yourself, where
Mm,
you can feel safe. You feel like it should be a safe space where you don't have to keep censoring yourself and checking yourself. Because honestly, we do that at work. Because at work you can't just say the first thing that comes to your mind, but you hope that in your relationship with your significant other, you are able to be very honest, and you can show even the not so pretty sides of yourself, and that will be okay, right? So I think that you're right. If it feels like a drama series and like the fights are tumultuous and very angry, and then like I think that's not a fun way to live.
yeah, definitely.
It's really not. Yeah. And if you feel like you're constantly, like you said, on eggshells, and you have to watch yourself and watch your what you say, then that's not a fun way to live either.
Yeah, and sometimes when you step on this eggshell, it becomes a landmine.
Yeah.
Emotional casualty, right? There'll be a big, big fight that will happen.
Yeah. I think that's another sign that it's a very toxic relationship. And then along these lines, I think the third one that we wanted to mention was when there are extreme emotional mood swings.
Mm. Oh, this is interesting because in a relationship like this, you could see one party or the other party will have an extreme mood swing from a normal state to be very angry or very upset or very sad immediately. This is what really happens is that the shift of emotion is so fast because they get triggered by different things in their heads or the environmental cues. So they are always upset or they are always raging. And the challenging part about this is that sometimes or many times they lash out to your loved ones without them knowing, without knowing that they're hurting them indirectly, right?
Mm, mm,
Yeah. And so, for example, if I give one example that in a toxic or unhealthy relationship, let's say, me and my partner, not my partner, but just for example, my
yeah.
partner said that, okay, I want some me time. Maybe let's stay away for each other for a while, do your own
Yeah.
activity, I do my own activity. And then I said, okay, let's do it, right? And then when I'm about to go out of the house to have my own me time, my partner will say that, oh, I know that you cannot stand me. That's why you're going to go out now.
Ah, okay.
Then I was like, oh, what just happened? I thought you
It's
asked
a
me
bit,
to have
yeah.
yeah. Then or the partner said, okay, you can just go out and take however long that you want. Doesn't really matter to me. So things like this, a lot of passive aggressiveness. Yeah. And
Well, I
then
think that's pretty tough to handle.
and then for example, if I come back after the me time, and then my partner was changed suddenly, become very, very sweet. And then out of curiosity, because I want to address the earlier issue, I can say something like, oh, why were you upset with me earlier? Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah.
For example, and the partner will say that, oh, it's already over. Why do you want to bring out things in the past? You're always, why can't you control your own emotions better? Why are you always so upset? You're like, oh.
Yeah. How do you react to that? Because like in your head, you're like, but you're the one who brought it up just now. It was a problem just now.
Yeah.
And that will be considered an emotional mood swing as well, right?
Yes. Emotional mood swing, and then coupled with real gaslighting also. Yeah.
So I think generally like if you constantly feel very negative and you constantly feel like a lot of anxiety and you feel like you cannot be yourself in a relationship and you're walking on eggshells all the time, I think those are signs of a toxic relationship for sure. So if you feel like you are in a toxic relationship, whether it's you or your partner who's exhibiting these signs, I think the big question then is, can we save a toxic relationship? Is it worth
Good
saving?
question, Jade.
Can we save it? Yeah.
Golden question: should we save unhealthy relationship or toxic relationship? The answer is yes, provided some of conditions are met. But before I go to that part first, maybe I could share as analogy to demonstrate what are the components of relationship, right? But sometimes in a toxic or unhealthy relationship, it could be one person that is obviously it's the abuser, but it's a more reactive person, and then the other person is stuck in the relationship. Okay, so let me share the analogy of a fireman. So imagine there's a forest fire or there's a fire somewhere, and then two firemen went to put out the fire, and then at the session, the first fireman's face is blackened with ash, and then his colleague fireman B face is clean. So let me ask you a question. Guess which fireman washed his face? Was it fireman A or fireman B?
The one with the clean face,
Okay, yeah, many people will
right?
choose that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the fireman with the clean face will wash his face is because that he thought his face was dirty because he saw his colleague's face was dirty, right? Because we look at each other.
Oh, so he saw his colleague's face dirty. He was like, we were in the fire, my face must be dirty too. Then he went to wash his face.
Correct. Whereas the A fireman with his face was dirty, he didn't wash his face because he saw his colleague's face was clean. So he thought that his face was clean. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to suggest here is that in a relationship, we are like these two firemen. One person may have a lot of issues from the past, which is not being resolved and dealt with. And then they went enter a relationship together. The fireman's face, who is a clean one, may think that because of this fireman's A's dirtiness or past issues, they think that they may have issues. So these issues are projected to the other firemen.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's basically that we don't need to take responsibility for everything.
Yeah, so the energy is to suggest that we do not need to take responsibility of another person's emotions or other person's crisis. Yeah, because so this is one of the fourth conditions is take responsibility of your own issues, but you don't need to take responsibility of your partner's issues. That's very important. Okay, and the second, so there are four things to talk about. Whether we can save a toxic relationship. This is the first one, accept responsibility. Second one is that to maybe invest time in the relationship together to talk about things. Maybe they can read books together to strengthen their relationship, to foster open communication, having the willingness wanting to work and improve it together, but just not one person, right? And then the third part is able to draw out boundaries, personal healthy space, so that they have me time to themselves.
I think me time, like in my case, I would have to say, like as an extreme extrovert who doesn't need a lot of time on my own to so-called ponder, right? I think Me time also includes like maybe just time with your friends. Like in my case, like time with my girlfriends is very important for me to have like female bonding time, you know, away from my partner. And I think that's I mean, some people take me time by like literally being alone. But I think it's just time either by yourself or with your friends, but without your partner there. It is very important, you know. And when people say boys will be boys, I mean, to be honest, like boys do need time with other boys. Honestly, I don't want to be there because boys, when they're together, like it's just a whole bunch of boys. It's not, you know, they'll become like little kids, like, you know, and they have their own fun. But it's important for boys to play like that together, and girls will be girls too, right? So when I'm with my girlfriends, like we want to firstly complain about our partners, and that's the truth. Sorry guys, I mean, I'm honestly, that's what girls do, right? But we also want to talk about very girly stuff that it's very, it changes the dynamic. You know, for example, I think that this me time thing, and me time meaning also time just to do stuff without your partner, is important. Like I have friends who like their partners are always there. And I even have some girlfriends where their partners, I don't know, for whatever reason, even when we're having girl time, like the guy will insist on being there. And it's kind of
Oh
hard
dear.
for us to say something, yeah, but it's not always welcome because it's not like we don't like the guy, but it's just that it changes the dynamic when there's a guy there compared to when it's just all of us girlfriends. And so I think this sort of me time, at least for me, is very important to spend time just with my female friends, right? And then I know like for my partner, it's important for him to spend time with just, you know, his friends or just to do something that he likes alone without you, because you know you guys love each other, but you're not supposed to spend like 24/7 together. I also know couples like that, you know, where they do everything together. And I do wonder, like, I don't know, it's like even like they one partner does this sport, then the other partner will take up this sport. You know, I think that there needs to be time for you all to have your different hobbies. And you can't have 100% the same interest in everything, right? It's just not possible, right? So I think people should have the it is important at this point to have the time and the capacity to spend time on the things that you love, even if your partner doesn't love them. It could be an individual sport, for example. It could be like just reading, you know. And your earlier point to read books to apply techniques together, I think, I mean, maybe you could give an example of some books. For me personally, I felt like reading about the love languages was a good book to read with my partner. It's not a difficult read. And maybe like if one person doesn't really like to read, like I like to read, like, so I'll read, then I'll just tell my partner. Sometimes it's just easier, but just to share like the points and techniques. Maybe Stefan, do you have a favorite book or favorite books that you've read with your partner that you found helpful?
Well, I think one of the we have quite a number of books that we read, but I think we read the individual books. But I
Yeah.
think what we do is that I think a good way is to share psychological articles. I know I'm just going back to psychology, but
No, but I
psychology,
do that too. Yeah.
yeah, psychology articles is really good because they are very short and easy to read and they come in
Yeah.
point form, and they are all
Ah.
scientifically proven. So it's not a lot of fluff.
Mm.
And then from there on, you can see what are the ways to improve relationships, and these are the red flags in relationships. So you can go into this to explore. Yeah,
Okay. Okay, so
yeah,
4 points. So invest in the relationship by having open conversations and maybe learning through like psychological articles or maybe books. The second is to take the responsibility to raise your own self-awareness. The third is
yes,
me time, and I want to clarify that it's not just time alone, because it's also me time, meaning time away from your partner. It could be time playing your favorite sport, you know, time with your girlfriends or your guy friends or whatever. And what's the fourth point?
the fourth one is the most important one.
What's that?
Is this having the ability to go out and seek help together.
You know,
Yeah,
this is hard for I think in Singapore it's getting a little bit better. There is not, it's losing a bit of the stigma, but it's tough in Asia. You know, where seeing a therapist, seeing a counselor is a bit stigmatized still, I think, in certain circles. It's like, is there something wrong with y'all? Or like, how come y'all need to see like therapists for your relationship? Like,
yeah. Well, if I could just jump in and say this is that if we are not feeling well physically, we will go and see a doctor, right? So likewise, that if you are not feeling well in a relationship, it's very okay to go and see a couple therapist or couple coach because they help us to strengthen the relationships. They won't take sides. Yeah, and this is a big element of one of the indicators of could we save an unhealthy relationship, because if they are willing to be vulnerable and willing to work on the issues, they are able to make a lot of good progression.
Okay, so that's your 4 points on can we save a toxic relationship and what we can do about it. Now, what if we're in the case, okay, where maybe you've heard this talk and maybe you just needed the extra push, but you've decided that maybe it's really, really toxic and it's time to leave. It's time to move on and to get out. I mean, that's the hardest thing. I think it's okay. Generally, breakups are just hard, right? So can we maybe talk about a few points on to help our friends listening, the ones who may feel like, okay, I've heard all this, I want to get out. What should we do to help ourselves?
First and foremost, accept that your emotions and what your partner's emotions or anger or disappointment or whichever is not yours. You
Like
cannot,
the fireman story told us, right?
yes, and you can only work on yourself. And in all relationships, it's very important for the individuals in the relationship to do their own healing. Yeah. So they need space to do their own healing. So first off, create your own space for personal healing. That is very important, because if you do that, then you are also having a good boundary, and you're also committing on resources to become better version of yourself. Yeah. And like all books that we read, there are different chapters. It is okay to close one chapter for a new chapter to begin, right? Because of these old experiences that we acquire experiences and skills to move forward in time. Yeah. So it'd be great to get rid of our own emotional clutter. So spend time on relationships that matters to you, friendships, or spend time on activities that you can build your own resources. For example, pick up a new hobby. Okay, if you can pick up a new hobby that involves yourself, which means that you don't need to involve another person.
Yeah.
You don't need to rely on a person. That's a good point. Or maybe pick up a new habit, a small little habit. So, for example, a new habit, it could be for those who, when they wake up, they don't make their bed. You can wake up in the morning and make your bed first. It's a good positive habit, right? Or it could be, you could say a word of gratitude to yourself when you eat or drink something, or you can savor your food. Any small new habits would be good also, starting.
Why would like a new habit, for example, I actually do make my bed every morning. Uh, but I'm just wondering why a habit like that would be helpful if we are trying to get out of a toxic relationship.
Well, I would say that all of these positive habits are accumulation or progression of bigger habits. So when you do something small within your control, we are also building hope and self-awareness around hope and optimism that we are doing good things in our lives. So we are positively reinforcing reinforcing things. By building these habits, we can start to build more and more positive habits by taking control back ourselves, paying attention to self-love and self-care.
Okay. Okay, that's really, really quite helpful. I mean, I did read this book, what was it called? I think Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's basically, oh, sorry, not another one. I read that, but I read also Make Your Bed.
Make your bed,
Like
okay.
literally, I think that was the title of the book, Make Your Bed, and it was written by this
Army guy, right? Yeah.
military guy, right? So he basically is saying, I think it's the same point they're saying, like small habits, our life is made out of like habits. And the small habits, if you do small positive habits, like you start the day by doing something good, then it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the day.
It's a small win, right, to a big win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a small win. Okay, I think hopefully that you found helpful. I'm getting some comments. Like Pearly, you said that I realized after COVID, stay home syndrome still going around. Yeah, because we're kind of still staying at home, even though like the circuit breaker is sort of done. So your husband seems to be very hot tempered and super easily when he stays at home for like 24/7 every day for a few months. I think this is actually a common problem. I don't know whether it will be considered a toxic relationship. I think you got to see the pattern over time. I do know that there are quite a lot of people I can tell who are very frustrated by the extended stay home. And not to be sexist, but men are notoriously not as good as dealing with emotions as women. So I feel like
Yep.
men might actually be suffering a little bit more at this period because they don't really name their emotions. They don't like call their friends and like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so bad about things, because that's what I would do. And things like that are good because it helps to get rid of the feeling, but it's a bit harder for men. So I would say hang in there for now. but do try to notice the patterns of behavior, and then you can decide whether it's a toxic relationship or not.
Yeah. And I think if, let's say, as a partner, if you notice that your partner is angry all the time, and don't engage your partner when they are angry, yeah. And maybe that when they are settled down and everything, you can go over and tell the partner and say that, hey, I noticed that you were a little bit uncomfortable earlier, and this is what you have done, and this is the impact on me, on the children. I'm just saying that this, you didn't mean it, but I just want you to be aware. So can I help you or support you in any way?
Yeah, I think that sort of approach, it's tough. Okay, it is tough when you're probably very pissed off at this person, but that is the sort of approach that is a lot more constructive, because uh, as a partner, you'd be more willing to listen. Like, for example, I like I said, I feel like when I kept pushing away partners, especially when I was younger, I felt like I had one partner who told me very patiently and lovingly that you're pushing me away. What's going on? Right. And then that's when I like, oh yeah, the self-awareness hits, but it's not gonna hit if you kind of yell at the person and get angry with them.
It's
Okay,
nice
so
that,
yeah, thanks. Okay, just to quickly recap, right? So today we kind of pointed out some of the signs of an unhealthy and toxic relationship,
yeah,
and we covered mainly, especially fear of abandonment. We also covered unstable relationship patterns, intense relationships, and extreme emotional mood swings. Now, there are a lot of other signs that we didn't cover in the interest of time, but you can go and research that. And if you're interested, like, please do comment. We'll try to reply. Because this video will be up even if you missed the live and you're only joining us now. Hi, it will still be on my IG and on YouTube and Facebook. So do have a look at that. And we also talked about how to save a toxic relationship. We gave you 4 good points, and how to move on or get out of a toxic relationship if you decide that that's what you want to do. Right. So I
yeah,
think one of the points on saving a toxic relationship is it's important to seek help. So we do have, one such channel would be Thrive Psychology Clinic, which Stefan owns and is a co-founder of. So that's one way that you could definitely seek some help in your relationship.
yeah. Go and talk to someone today. It's okay to do so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is okay to do so. Okay, that's kind of like all the time we have for today. Thanks so much, Stefan, for helping us out with this one, and hope that if you are watching this or listening to this podcast, like that you found this helpful. And like I said, please do keep in touch with us across all social channels. And Stefan, how do we get to, if anyone is interested to find help at Thrive, how can we get in touch?
Okay, you can go to Google this Thrive, Thrive, Thrive Psychology Clinic. We're located in Novena area. So you can give us a call or send us an email. Yeah, very easy to reach. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jade.
Thank you, Stefan. I'll catch you again next week.